Okay.
Right. Our first order of business, the approval of the minutes for November 20th.
Kim, can you talk louder, please?
Oh, I
Can
was
you,
hoping it was good because I did some work on my computer. So,
yep, just talk a little louder. You got it.
okay. So, approval of the minutes from November 20th. Someone like to,
Motion to approve.
thank you.
I second it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Our next order of business is regional director's update.
Okay. Well, again, Happy New Year, everyone. My report will be short because I want to make sure that I yield enough time for our guests that are here this evening. Last November, when we had our meeting, we heard your concerns in regards to wanting to know more in regards to serving individuals with higher lawns and workforce issues and GTI concerns. So we invited some central office administrators to touch upon those topics that you brought up in our last meeting. So I just wanted to, like always, remind you of Fourth Tuesdays. Those are great forums. Our next one is on January 28th, and that is sharing my life in a community companion home. And if you're not able to attend, it's at 3 o'clock. If you're not able to attend, they are recorded, so you can see them online. And I also wanted to, for the sake of time, I'm going to have Ether send you the self-advocate coordinators, their end of year report, because it was absolutely phenomenal. They did an awesome presentation to the administration, and I would love for you guys to see all the work that they do in only 20 hours a week. It's amazing. They facilitated many advocacy groups. They co-taught healthy relationship classes. They were co-teachers in AT&Me. They promote self-determination. They help with the onboarding of new DDS staff. They participated on various interview committees. They presented for the Connecticut Family Service Network. They've just been doing amazing work. Their presentation skills are phenomenal. So, please take a look at that when Ether sends that tomorrow. And I think that's it. I'll pass it to Joseph Carvalho.
Thanks so much, Stacy. Appreciate that. And so nice to see you all. I've met some of you. I see some unfamiliar faces, but either way, it's nice to be here. And thank you for all the work that you folks do. So a little bit about myself. I recently rejoined DDS back in August of 2024 as the senior advisor to the commissioner. My role specifically, though, as of late, has been helping self-directed families, case managers, and connect with DDS and GTI leadership with respect to the recent change of fiscal intermediary. As with any transition, there's going to be bumps in the road. However, we recognize that there have been a fairly large number of concerns and challenges that families have gone through as we work through this transition. So at a minimum, I wanted to make sure that you folks had my contact information so that you or folks you interact with in your daily lives have a point of contact should you experience any challenges with GTI or folks who are interested in getting involved in self-direction. So I'll make sure to put that information in the chat, but I just wanted to introduce myself. Oh, of course, GT Independence is the fiscal intermediary for folks who self-direct their services. That is kind of the top line summary of what GTI or GT Independence is. But yeah, so I just wanted to make myself available to you folks in case you had any questions right now. But at a minimum, I'll put my email address and my state cell phone number in the chat so you can contact me if you have questions, concerns, challenges you need help with. Long story short, I'm here to help. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe? Okay. Mary Pat DiCarlo, would you like to speak now?
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. I am Mary Pat DiCarlo, and I am the Director of Workforce Strategies for DDS. I have been in this newly formed position for about 18 months now, and my focus is to work with the private provider sector as well as the other human services, state agencies, and workforce strategy agencies to kind of take on the workforce crisis that we're in right now. So I came from the private sector, over 40 years experience working at various different nonprofit DDS contracted providers. And I spent a lot of time in those 40 years advocating for staff, advocating for staff wages, staff training, um, all of that. So I've come to this position with a pretty good understanding of what folks in the state are kind of going through when it comes to trying to hire staff and retain staff. And get well-trained staff. So we all know that it has been a challenge. Even in my last position in the private sector, I knew that once we got through COVID, it was really kind of quick to try to hire anybody who was interested in working and trying to get warm bodies in there to work in the different programs. And that isn't always, it's not the best way of going. I know that over the years, how we've trained staff and things that we've done has changed, even though some of the requirements are the same. So that is one area that we're looking at. We know that money can be a big part of it, but it's not everything. So my focus is on the other part. What else can we do to develop a good, strong, direct support professional workforce? One of the things I found out when I first got into the position is that most of the people in the state, such as the Department of Labor, Department of Workforce Strategies, other state agencies did not know what a direct support professional was. They just assumed that the people that worked in group homes and day programs were all CNAs. So it took me several months to do some real educating as to what is the difference. What makes a DSP position different and special, right? Um, some legislators are good about knowing that, and some don't know as much. So one of the focuses has been on educating. We found out there's no standard job code for a DSP, either in the state or nationally. So we don't know exactly how many job openings there are, how many DSPs are actually needed. Even though we've participated in some national surveys, it's a hard number to get a hold of. But what I can tell you is that nationally, we're going to need 1.3 million more direct care workers by 2030. And where are those people going to come from? Big question, right? In Connecticut alone, that'll be about 130,000 more direct care workers that we will need on top of the vacancies that we already have. When I say direct care workers, I am talking about direct support professionals, but I'm also talking about the PCAs and those staff that work with the families that self-direct. I'm talking about home health aides, people that work with the elderly, the physically disabled in their homes, right? So it's a bigger group. My focus right now for this conversation really is for the DSPs and the PCAs. Oh, I'm sorry. PCA is the personal care attendants. Okay. And DSP is direct support professionals. So we've gotten to a point where I feel good about being able to report that we've got some exciting things coming forward in the next 6 months. We have a marketing campaign that DDS will be doing on behalf of the qualified providers. We will be doing this advertisement and marketing so that they can recruit staff. That we're not going to be recruiting staff to DDS. This is for the providers to be able to get staff. We're doing a trusted messenger series where we're going to be going out into the community and talking to church groups and adult ed programs, community programs at large, Rotaries, those kind of things. So people that may know individuals that are looking for a new career, are looking for their initial career, who may, a minister who may know somebody who is really good at helping people if they're looking for a job, point them in our direction. So it's really educating the community as to the jobs that are really available and so needed, in Connecticut. We're going to have a job board to process these applicants. And the bigger part that we're working on, which will take a little longer than 6 months, is developing a standardized training, and hopefully it'll be a credentialed program for the direct support workers. And so by having a trained support staff where they have their entry level trainings all done before they get hired, there's going to be consistency there. There'll be competencies that people will have to pass. And with all of this combined, the goal is to build that stronger workforce. And looking for people that have the compassion and the empathy and the patience and skills to work in this field. So I know I kind of said a lot, but if anyone has any questions?
I see one in the chat that says, Pat, does that include companions as well?
Well, probably. So that's one of the issues we have. We have so many different job titles in this state, and so many of them are duplicates, and trying to kind of what do I say? What corral all of those job titles together and kind of do some putting them together so that we're all talking the same language. That's the other issue. A lot of people didn't know what a DSP was, but we're not all talking the same language. So trying to get a consistent job titles, basic job descriptions, so that it's universal across the state and we're all talking apples to apples and not apples to oranges. Yes.
Hi there. Thanks very much for all that information and for clarifying acronyms. I'm still trying to catch up on all the acronyms, though.
Okay.
I think there's some who've been in this world a long time and are still catching up on acronyms. So thanks for that. Are there any sort of timelines or timeline deadlines for some of these in terms of, just any timing information? It's helpful.
Yeah, so the our first timeline is in the next 6 months. We will have done the Trusted Messenger program. We will have launched that and got that out. We will have launched some of the marketing campaign, and we will have the job board set up so that the marketing campaign can then send people to this job board, which will then send them to providers in their area that are hiring. So all of that, if all the pieces come together at the right time and everything aligns, that all should be done definitely by the end of June, if not, probably sooner. I'm hoping. We're on a roll right now. Um, we are also in the process of filming a video about direct care work. All the good, the bad, the everything, just so that people have a really good understanding what it means to be a DSP. I think that's another issue sometimes is we hire folks and we don't tell them everything that's involved. And they, get scared and they leave, right? So we have to do a better job of educating them up front and find out where their interests lie. Because we have such a wide variety of people that you could work with. If you're more medically inclined, you could work with that population, work with those who have, physical disabilities, or you're working with those that have, more behavioral or behavioral health situations. So there is a variety, and you just have to make those right matches, and that's what we're trying to do.
There's another question. Is the job board through rewarding work or GTI or both?
It's going to be separate from rewarding work. We're going to continue with rewarding work for the PCA positions at this point. This job board will be specifically for DDS qualified providers that will be listing their job openings. And that's where it's going to start. It may expand from there, but I can't really say at this point if it will, but that's our starting point. And then eventually we're working on a landing page with DSS where if people see things through the marketing and they go to this website, eventually they can sign up for this frontline entry level training that we will be developing. And that will be something that will be available to people that are either unemployed or underemployed, and other services will come along with that training.
Any more questions for Mary Pat? Thank you. That was very informative.
I'll put my email in the chat, and
Oh.
anytime if anybody has any thoughts or ideas or want to share anything with me, please let me know.
Go ahead, Adriana.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forget. I don't remember if I'm supposed to be even asking questions, but since you guys are letting me, I'm going to ask. Pat, I was just curious with that survey that had gone out from government. I don't know if it was ACL that was asking about the job categories when discussing DSP. Have you heard of when that results from that survey or I forget, public opinion or whatever it was. And it wasn't just DSPs, but like it was basically referring to what you were talking about, creating kind of sometimes like a category specific to different positions.
I'm gonna have to go back and look. There's been a couple of surveys that have gone out, and I'm not quite sure which one you're referring to.
That was a national survey, Adriana?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Oh,
the
is that
national one that
NCI?
I asked for
ACL.
for
Yeah.
everyone
ACL,
to give
okay.
input. Yeah, ACL about about this DSPs, PCAs, about creating those actual job categories that you were talking about, where right
So-
now it's really indistinguishable.
Mary Pat, maybe you want to share a little about our work with Amy Hewitt and the
Oh.
other states? Yeah.
Yeah, I am going to go back and look for that survey though. Thank you.
Thank you.
So speaking of ACL, we had the opportunity this summer to be part of a peer learning collaborative with several other states. We worked with Illinois, California, Kansas, and Connecticut. So there was the four of us in our cohort. And we spent a lot of time sharing information, sharing what is working, what isn't working in each other's states, and in developing collaboration and to be able to, maybe not always recreate the wheel. So that was a very helpful um, committee. It also put us in a position where we were able to get together key people from the other human service state agencies in Connecticut, which had never really been done before. And that group started working together and sharing, everyone's issues and concerns. And the group has gotten a little bit smaller because the our work has gotten a bit more defined. But we still have all made that connection in regards to workforce development and what can we do together and what do we need to do on our own, because each department is a little bit different, right? And so they have their own needs. But that was a great experience. And I have contact with other people throughout the state. I am part of ANCOR, which is a federal group, and I get a lot of information from them. Um, who else? A couple of others. So it's an issue across the whole country. And now we're all sitting here now waiting, kind of with bated breath as to what's going to happen, with the new um, administration as to how things are going to progress and what changes we're going to be faced with and take it from there.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
Um, Now I will pass it to who needs no introduction, our Deputy Commissioner, Elisa Velardo.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacy. And thank you, Joe and Mary Pat. I think you touched on two of the really key areas that are of interest. And I think one of the highlights is the fact that we've been able to bring talented people like Joe Carvalho and Mary Pat DiCarlo to DDS or back to DDS in Joe's case to really help to support some of this important work that we're doing. So I'll touch on just a general list of overview of topics, and then if you want me to drill into any of them more deeply, I'm happy to do that. So where we are here in January of 2025, we're in the wind down of our ARPA period. Our ARPA period ends in June of 2025, and so we are working furiously to make sure that we are able to utilize those resources effectively and really invest in some of the things that we've been working on right along. And when Mary Pat says, like with our workforce development work, it's really starting to take traction. Took about a year and a half to just kind of get all the pieces in place. And now we're seeing all of the byproducts of that. We're seeing the momentum really start, but sometimes it takes a little time to put the infrastructure in place before you really see the rewards. Our commissioner likes to say it's like a snowball rolling down the hill, right? It starts slowly and then it builds up speed and gets bigger and bigger. So some of the things we've been working on have gotten bigger and bigger, and it's pretty exciting. So as part of the wind down, Stacy mentioned the AT&Me initiative, AT Assistive Technology. We had 600 AT backpacks fully equipped with Chromebooks and iPhones and hotspots and headsets and all the technology that we all use every day in our lives to just stay connected and do what we need to do. We have trained and distributed those backpacks to about 450 people so far. We have about 150 backpacks left. training is occurring several times a month. Some of them are small, 3 or 4 people. Some of them are larger. We've had classes 10 to 15 people. And so we are in the final phase of that AT&Me initiative, but at the end of that, we will have 600 people across the state of Connecticut that not only will have been trained in assistive technology, how to use all of these tools, but they will have all of the technology at their fingertips that they can keep. The value of that is well over $1,000. And that's theirs to keep going forward. And the feedback has been great. Stacy mentioned our self-advocate coordinators. They have partnered with our AT division to conduct the trainings. They are superstars. They are superstars. They have provided follow-up support, but they are really, really invested in making sure that people have the technology that they need. Also on the assistive technology front, we had issued an RFP, that's a request for proposals, to really increase our capacity to provide assistive technology assessments. We awarded that the contracts to 3 providers. In the North region, the provider is Oak Hill. They have the Neat Marketplace that some of you may be familiar with, and they have been conducting an extraordinary number of assessments. It's the response it's exceeded our wildest expectations. And what that contract allows the provider to do, there are other providers in other regions, is to go out, conduct that assistive technology assessment. They'll meet with the person in their environment, in their home, make a recommendation in terms of what technology would be beneficial. And then they, upon approval, order the technology, and then they install the technology, and then they train the person on the technology. So it's really soup to nuts, identifying what's needed right through making sure that the person is very, very comfortable with the technology that has been provided. So that is moving along very robustly. And then also on the technology end, and I would really encourage you to keep an eye out because these opportunities will continue. You may know that we have 12 respite centers across the state, 4 per region. And each of those respite centers has been outfitted as a full smart home with all of the assistive technology that you might have in any residential environment. What we're doing now is conducting demos of the respite centers so that people can come out and experience that technology. So there are different dates. I know the North region just had a respite center demo, and it was very, very well received. But the idea is respite extends from Thursday afternoon through Monday morning, and those other days, the Tuesdays and Wednesdays, those respite centers can be available for these demos, and people can come out, use the technology, get familiar with it, get an idea what might be beneficial, and not only do all the respite guests benefit from the fact that this technology is in the respite centers, we're really getting the word out to individuals and families, and I'm excited to see the number of people that are signing up for that. And the final area in the world of technology is remote supports, and that is one of the newer areas. We have been working with recent grads to offer remote supports in their family home. And what that allows is technology to be available in the home that can promote independence. So we're at the very beginning stages of this. We've had the kind of first pilot group, but the remote support providers will identify what technology might be beneficial. There's a lot of sensors, and those sensors send alerts. And so, for example, if somebody usually goes to bed at 10 o'clock at night, they usually get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're all pretty much creatures of habit. If there's a sensor and the sensor goes off at 3 in the morning and then 4 in the morning, it would alert someone remotely that's not in the house, but that can check in to see what might be going on. Is the person feeling okay? Is everything okay? And so we're excited that we're piloting this. We expect that we're going to learn a lot from the remote supports that are offered, and we'll be looking for feedback from the individuals and families that are participating as we move forward with remote supports in the future. So that's technology. With supportive housing, which is another area that I know there's a lot of interest in. We are in the season where there's kind of a cycle with supportive housing. And we're in the season where developers are getting their applications ready to submit to CHFA and the Department of Housing for developments that will probably be built and come online maybe 2 years from now. There's a long lead time between application and having an apartment complex that's ready to move into. So for those developers that are seeking LIHTC, low income housing tax credits. They get credits if they provide if they partner with qualified providers, and there are set-aside units that are available for people that are affiliated with DDS. So those developers have been reaching out to providers, and what needs to happen is the region needs to agree that the development is in a location that would be beneficial, that there's a need there. The provider will develop a plan that says, okay, there are 8 units, 7 1-bedrooms, 1 2-bedroom. We can support 9 people, and they fill out a checklist verifying that they have the ability to provide those supports. If it is a development that is of interest, it's in an area that's where there's a need. Our commissioner will sign a letter of support. The developer then submits the application and we wait. Some of the applications will get approved, some may not, but upon approval, then the regions work very hard with the providers and the developers to make sure that there's close coordination, that we're tracking as the building is underway, that when the time comes, referrals are going to the provider, and that's been a really nice option. So we're in the season where those letters of support are being generated, and we should find out probably April, May, which of those developments are actually approved. So we don't do the approvals, but we're a part of the process from this point right through when people are living there. And we're also developing a guidance document. So this guidance document will be helpful for individuals and families. It'll be helpful for our case managers. It'll be helpful for providers. And it really talks about, what is supportive housing? If I'm interested in moving into supportive housing, what do I need to know? If I'm a provider and I'm going to be partnering with a developer to offer supportive housing, what are the different phases? What do I need to think about? What are the requirements around leases? What are the requirements around income and all of the information about the rental assistance vouchers. And so we anticipate that that guidance document will be available in the spring. Really excited about that. We have some great providers that have offered this service now for a while. We have meetings where they share information, but it'll be really nice to have a document that's available, that will be available in Spanish as well. And it will, I read your mind, Adriana. And it will be helpful to just have that information so that people can kind of follow the steps. But that does lead me to another thing, and that is the translation of documents. Our communications team, Kevin Bronson, has been working really hard on getting our documents all translated. That is part of this ARPA wind down as well. We received approval to translate documents, and so Kevin is very much working with a translation service to have that move along as quickly as possible. And then my next thing on my list, community engagement. Part of ARPA, and this was part of, there's different parts of ARPA. And I won't get into the weeds on this, but there was some funding that came through the state of Connecticut ARPA, and it was looking at, during the pandemic, people were in their homes. They didn't have the opportunity to socialize as much. And post-pandemic, there were funds that were available to enhance community engagement. So we put out actually 2 RFPs, and we had providers around the state submit proposals around how they could support people who live in their homes or in their family homes, get out and connect with their communities. And so that is underway. Those agencies have been providing those supports. In the North region, we have had Mark of Manchester that has done a really nice job. And we have a mechanism where that'll be able to continue past the ARPA period. So that's pretty exciting. And people have really responded in a positive way to that. I know last month you had our employment team come and present, so I won't get too much into the world of employment other than to say they're an awesome team, and they're very, very, I know I work very closely with that team, not only enhancing employment opportunities for people. Micro enterprises has been another area that is pretty exciting. I think Connecticut may be the leader in that area in the country. I was talking to the team about just recently about the fact that we're really breaking ground as far as people who want to be self-employed or start a small business, and we have these grants that are available for people who have a passion that where maybe the traditional employment route, or even to supplement the traditional employment route, they want to start a small business. And so we've issued a number of those grants. Joe talked about our FI transition. We continue to meet very, very closely with the fiscal intermediary, and things are trending in a positive direction. And then the last area, I know Stacy mentioned that in the last meeting, there was a discussion around people with significant needs. We've had a work group for the better part of this last year. Mary Pat is facilitating that work group. Shannon Jacovino has been very active, as have people from our Children's Services Division, our clinical supports, day and employment services, really to look at how we can increased capacity for people who have significant needs. And when we talk about people who have significant needs, that is defined as people who have one-to-one or greater support needs. Oh, I got off that page. And that may be behavioral needs that require one-to-one support or greater. Sometimes people have even 2-to-1 support needs, or intensive medical needs that require nursing assistance for specific tasks throughout the day. So we really are talking about folks with significant needs. And we've focused on several different areas. One of the most, well, they're all exciting, but one thing that we did so what we heard from families is, hey, there's not capacity. I have funding. My loved one has funding, but we can't find a provider. And it gets back to what Mary Pat just talked about with staffing. If staffing is at a low and you have vacancies, to find staff for one-to-one support needs can be a challenge. And so we heard from families that they were having a hard time identifying services, or if they had services and they were interested in portability, that theoretically you can exercise portability, but if you can't find another option, then you really can't exercise portability. So we developed it's a funding structure that incentivizes agencies to, one, expand hours for people who might be attending part-time but are interested in attending day or employment services for more hours, expanding the number of hours. We had some people who, left their program during the pandemic that hadn't returned to accept those folks back into services. And for those people who had funding but were not able to identify a day program, they're incentivized for accepting new referrals. And that incentive gets greater the higher the level of need. So there's an incentive for accepting new people, for expanding hours across the board, but that incentive gets progressively higher the higher the level of need, and the uptake on that has been tremendous. And we knew that it should work in theory, but it's really exciting to be here to say we are seeing capacity increase. And so we're, looking at that. We've still got to drill down and see, hey, did it increase more for people with higher levels of needs, or who is it that has gotten these additional services? But it's really exciting to see that there has been an increase in capacity. We have a clinical response team, CRT. I'm trying to be mindful of my acronyms, and the clinical response team has been around for a long time. We have 5 spots per region, where there are 2 agencies again, and this is just coincidental, but Oak Hill is the agency for the North region that can assist people who are at risk of hospitalization, or who have been hospitalized for psychiatric hospitalization, and are ready to be discharged, to make sure that the supports that are in place hopefully can prevent hospitalization, but also make sure that people are reconnected and have the necessary supports in whatever their setting is. This is offered to families, but it's also offered to providers. And so when this was rolled out, probably, Stacy, would you say like 8-9 years ago? It's been a while. we knew that families might take advantage of that. I wasn't sure about providers, but they really have. Sometimes if somebody's really struggling and the agency feels like, we've tried everything we can think of, we've trained our staff, we've got a positive behavioral support plan in place, we've got, they're still struggling. Sometimes having somebody come in with fresh eyes and clinical expertise can be really helpful. So I can say with confidence, there's never a time where we're not using all 5 of those spots per region. And there's usually, as it's time limited. It's meant to just make sure that the training's in place, the support plan is working for the person, that the person is really receiving the supports that they need. Once things are fairly stable, that person is discharged, there's always somebody ready to access those services. And so we are looking at, we definitely have heard that there's a need for an expansion of the clinical response team. And so we're looking at that. Another thing that we're focused on, we've heard from families, one of the things that we've uh, recognized is each person's, when you're talking about this particular population, each person's needs are really very different, and so there's not a recipe that will work for everyone. What is needed is really some flexibility to build the supports based on the needs of the person. We're in the process of updating our website so that some of the clinical training that we have available is more prominent, and we've started to videotape some of that training so that family members or providers can utilize, and they'll be shorts. 5 minutes on a positive behavioral support plan or a particular area, just to provide some clinical resources that we heard would be helpful in training staff and just having a training resource library. And the fourth Tuesday forum in February is going to focus on people with more significant needs. The forums have been a great way to highlight, success stories. And there are some really nice success stories where people who do have significant needs are living their best lives in the community. And so we wanted to take that time and highlight that topic. And so that'll be in the fourth Tuesday forum in February. I think that's all I had. I'll open it up to any questions. Shannon had her literal hand up.
A literal hand up, unless there's someone else with a virtual hand up. Sorry, they can go first. Alan, Kim, who do you want to go? Do you want me to go?
Shannon, go ahead.
Okay. That was all very informative. Thank you very much. I took lots of notes so I can remember stuff later. I know things are recorded too. I think, and I don't know that this is so much a question, though it is a question. I've been coming to these meetings for over a year. I've been going to the Tuesdays and listening to all the ones that I miss, and all of that is great and wonderful, and everyone's been super helpful. But I can't even talk to any of these providers until I get a case manager. And my son is currently 20. He's about to turn 21. And I'm told I won't get a case manager until just before the June after his 22nd birthday. But for me to, he doesn't currently live at home. He lives at a school for kids with intellectual disabilities. He is that sweet spot between intellectual disability and mental health issues. Last year, we spent the entire year just trying to keep him out of the psychiatric hospital. He's more stable now. That's all great. And so I'm coming to these things, taking lots of notes for down the road, but I can't even figure out what the next immediate step is until I get a case manager and right? So Stacy has been amazing. The North Region really has been a great partner. I feel very much like a partner in all of this. But that is the current challenge. And the challenge that I experience when I talk to my fellow parents, who I try and encourage to come here, but nobody has yet, but maybe one day. But that is the challenge I hear from my fellow parents in this community. Like, right, we really are trying to be proactive as we come up to the cliff. But right, so that's the challenge at hand. I will keep all of this information for future reference, but I'm still where I am right now. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'd be happy if you want to connect offline to just gather a little bit more information. I'm sure you've been in touch with the helplines. The North Region is awesome. You are correct that case managers do get assigned closer to graduation, but I don't know. I don't know the particulars, so I do know we have a children's services division. I don't know if there's been connection there or if it's even appropriate. But I'd be happy to connect with you offline and see if there's any other resources.
Ariana?
Adriana?
Elise, thank you. I just had a question. I was curious. You mentioned 2 RFPs for the Supporting Families Home Mark Manchester. Is there a second provider that is part of that, or it hasn't been chosen yet?
Oh, there are.
I know I'm gonna.
If you give me a minute, and I want to thank you because I saw
Yeah.
that you put in the chat the information about rewarding work, I think, and supportive housing, and you are awesome about providing resources. Give me just
Oh,
1
no.
minute
Happy to
there.
help. This is the information we give to families in general, and that's the only reason I can pull it up so quickly. This is a part of our world.
The agencies that have received awards, Mark of Manchester,
Mhm.
Catholic Charities, Easter Seals of Greater Waterbury, Mark Community Resources, and Marrakesh.
That makes sense. So Marrakesh, Easter Seals, Catholic Charities, Mark of Manchester, and Mark of
Community Resources, that's based in Middletown.
Perfect. I'm going to pick your brain one more time.
Okay.
The 3 AT providers that received the funding, you said North Region was Oak Hill. Do you have the other 2?
I do. South region is also Oak Hill, and then the West region splits between Mid-State and Star. So Star has Fairfield County, and Mid-State has all the rest of the West region other than Fairfield County.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone. That was amazing. Lots of great information. Love it. Ready to move on to the legislative update. And I know Rick's not here. He's like the guru. But I was at a meeting Monday night. I belong to the Northeast Families for Families, and we were discussing things that were going to be discussed at the legislative office. So one of the things we discussed was managed care, Medicaid waivers. I know that's something people are very concerned about. And I know that we've had experience with managed care in the past, and I guess it did not go well. So that's something that was discussed. They talked about House Bill 5002, and trying to make housing affordable, trying to get young workers into the state. And I guess we're just kind of hoping that they'll put a focus on all of our population. They were reminding us that the legislative office breakfast is February 18th, sponsored, I believe, by DD Council. I know the following day, People First on the 19th are going to also be putting on a breakfast. So that's 2 mornings you can have a breakfast and talk to legislators, which is fabulous. There was, I guess, a group that's working on making sure that doctors' offices have lifts for patients who need to have aid. And I guess many doctors don't have lifts. They said, of course, we're always going to be talking about supported housing, supported decision making, the work incentives. And they said that Bill 5000 this year is focused on special education. In fact, I was there this morning and they were just getting together afternoon, beginning stages. Does anyone have anything else? Okay. Then it would be our open for public participation. Okay, I would like, is there anyone who has any requests for topics? To make sure that we're meeting everyone's needs. Oh, yay! Adriana, yay!
No, sorry, I couldn't raise my hand fast enough, so
Oh,
I'm
I'm
going to
sorry.
disappoint you. It's not about topics.
Okay, that's okay.
I wanted to just briefly share and a couple events that we're running for Connecticut Family Support Network. One of them is with Tammy Vanenge. I'm so bad at last names. So we'll be doing a community conversation with her. She's the director of the Children's Services Division of DDS to help explain the updates, what the program is about, eligibility. And we're having that on January 29th between 5 and 6 p.m. If you're on our mailing list or if you're on the DDS newsletter, you can see the flyer there in both those locations, or you can see it on CTFSN's Facebook business page. And then we run multiple support groups, and we're going to have a couple of workshops also using Life Course to set healthy habits, both English and Spanish. So we're doing a variety of things. And then we also run once a month a fun workshop with the DDS self advocates throughout the different regions, and they do some amazing topics. They're great presenters, and it's gotten now where it's beyond families at home coming in. We have provider like day programs groups tuning in, and we also have group home communities tuning into these self-advocate workshops, and they're really enjoying it. So it's growing visibility. So I just wanted to share that information. And then there will be a save the date for our One Voice conference that'll be happening in April. That'll come out in a couple of days, but it's going to be April 24th. That's a Thursday, and it's going to be again in North Haven. So a save the date will be going out either tomorrow or the following day. Thank you for letting me talk about what's coming up.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. So awesome. Oh, yay, Shannon.
Okay, I have a suggestion for a topic.
Yay.
Sorry, I feel super vocal here tonight. My apologies. It's taken me a year. You didn't hear from me for a whole year, and now I'm like, okay. And this may not be within like the DDS, right? Like I'm just not far enough into this to really know, but like how we help them on their medical journey, right? Like ultimately we want them, ultimately I want my son managing as much of his own medical stuff that he can. And where does that fit within the DDS structure of who's supporting him in an ongoing way. I mean, ultimately, the goal is I step out more and more and more. And what does that look like? That's a one piece I don't feel like I've really heard much about in the last year. Just an idea.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Anyone else have any suggestions? How about any last minute comment? All right. Well, I think that gets us to our adjournment. Would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion.
With second. Yay, thank you, Tammy. Wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Great to see everyone.
Thanks
Take
very
care.
much, everyone.
Have a good
Have a good
evening.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Great information. Bye.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.